In this video we'll see aggressive pawn storms on both sides of the board, impressive pawn sacrifices to lock in black's pieces, and much more. Let's start with an attacking game of Mikhail Tal's playing the Tal variation of the Caro Kann. White's plan is to go h4 and g4 immediately, gaining time on this bishop, forcing black to play h6 and create an escape square. Having an advanced pawn structure on the king side is always good for white. It can be used to start a king side attack. Later on it's good in the endgame. White can also go f4 with ideas of f5 and destabilising black's pawn centre. White can also play moves like c3 and b4 to clamp down on black's counterplay, so white can advance on both sides of the board. Meanwhile, black will go for slow development with moves such as h6, e6, bringing the knights to the centre and untangling before castling and looking to get to a good endgame. So white plays h4, black h6, white goes g4. Now black normally puts the bishop back on h7, but here went back to d7. Now this is a poor choice because it creates a traffic jam on the d7 square. The bishop will also be locked behind the pawn chain and will have no say on, for example, a piece landing on d3. So this is not such a good move. White goes h5, always good to fix this pawn structure. This pawn is not going to be weak because there's no way for the knight to come out to attack it. So black goes c5, sacrifice. We don't want to take because it would destabilise our pawn structure. If we took, black go knight c6, queen c7 and e6, and we'd have a hard time holding both of these. So we go c3, e6 and f4, setting up our strong pawn chain. Black will try and undermine it French style with queen b6, knight c6, knight g7. He may play g6 to open up the king side. He's probably going to castle queen side here because that's where his pieces are. So we will counter this by playing knight f3. We might fianchetto our bishop, or we might come to d3, and we'd castle king side before advancing with moves like a4, b4 and b5. So we can choose. We can advance on the king side. Since black's not going to castle there, we switch over to the queen side. So queen b6, knight f3, knight c6, and now we go for a very French manoeuvre with knight a3 to c2. This is great to support the d4 pawn. Basically it means that pawn's never going to fall, and this knight on c2 is a multi-purpose piece because it can support b4 and defend d4. So that's what Tal went for, knight a3. He could have also gone for the plan of knight bd2 and b3 to hit this pawn. If you can force black to exchange early, that's good because you can play knight c3. So knight a3, c takes, castles queenside, and now we're going to go for our plan knight c2, b4, rook b1, b5. Black will try and prevent this by playing a5, or just by bringing his king to b8, his rook to c8. He needs to develop the king side ASAP, but it's hard to do this because if he plays g6 here, we are able to just leave it, and if he captures on h5, we've got an open g file to attack down. So we play knight c2, king b8, and now we develop with bishop d3, knight g7, rook b1, carrying on with the plan. Black goes knight a5. He might have ideas of knight a5 to c4 and bringing his other knight into c6. His knights will control all the key squares along these diagonals, dominate the dark square bishop, if we give him time to do that. That's why we need to push b4 as soon as possible. So knight a5, we go bishop d2, rook c8 and b4, defended by 3 pieces here. So knight c4. Now this is actually slightly better for black, so he's played well up to this point. He's manoeuvred his pieces to the best squares. Now for the time being, black's doing very well because he's covering the crucial squares on the queen side. White can't go a4 and b5 because the bishop's covering them. It will take time for white to play b5. Of course black can't take because then just a4 wins the bishop. So white can go b5, then a4 and eventually a5. But in the meantime, black needs to break down white's king side. White's king will be weak if this pawn chain disappears. So black should go f5 immediately. Then this pawn's hanging. However, if the pawn takes, knight takes f5 will be a great outpost for the knight. So white strikes while the iron is hot with b5. Now black played a very poor move here. Instead of going f5 immediately, and then g takes, knight takes. The black knight is looking at some juicy squares. Black's got a clear development plan with bishop e7, rook f8. White will take time to play a4, and then the a5 square is covered. Instead, black took on d2, poor move. Tile recaptured with the knight. Would have been better to take the queen, but hey. Now here, black made another poor move with g6, again just f5 opening the king side. White went knight b3. The plan's back on track now, he's going a4 and a5 the next two moves. Black took on b5, notwithstanding this pin, and white won an exchange after knight c5, because he's forced to give up the rook for this knight, as this bishop is attacked twice and is pinned. So a very quick turnaround for Tal. He of course won this exchange and then went on to win the game very easily. So it shows that having pawns right up in your opponent's half of the board puts pressure on them and induces mistakes. Now in this position we see a different plan where white advances on the queen side with a pawn storm. So we have a Caro Kann where black has sacrificed a pawn with c5. We go knight f3, black goes knight c6, and we take on c5. Generally speaking, it's good to take this c5 pawn and accept that your e5 pawn is going to drop. It's a good pawn trade because we create a 4 versus 2 pawn majority on the queen side, which we can advance. Meanwhile, black is going to have to misplace his knight to capture this e5 pawn. It's going to end up having to move again, and it will be a long time before black's pawn majority starts rolling. So bishop g4, we go c3. This is a useful move because it covers these two squares. It means our bishop comes to e3 and d4 to shore up our pawn centre. It also supports b4, b5 later on. If we gain time on this knight, we can kind of pass a critical point where our pawns run away on the queen side, and we can win very quickly if our opponent's not careful. So e6, we go bishop e3, defend this pawn. Bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, and knight g7. Again, we're allowing black to take this pawn because we know his knight's going to be misplaced. So we go bishop b5. This is good because we want to exchange this bishop for this knight. We don't want to do it until black has wasted a move on a6 to mean he's down a tempo though. So black goes a6, we go bishop back to a4. Again, this keeps this knight pinned down and delays knight takes e5. So black goes queen a5 to force white's hand. White delays again with queen to d1. Now this is a good strategy because black can't take on e5. Black is forced to go knight to g6 if he wants to take this pawn now, which is going to have to do anyway because he's going to want to go bishop e7 and castle. We on the other hand have a clear plan of going b4. We bring the knight in behind to support. We will take on c6 when it's convenient for us, which will create space for a4, b4 and b5. Black can also fianchetto his bishop with bishop g7, and then once this pawn's gone, it can become very powerful on this diagonal, so it's a double-edged position. Black goes knight f5, we finally take on c6. Now we could have gone b4 first, but then after queen c7, if we take now, black has the option of queen takes c6, and then he can play b6 and start to break down our pawn chain. So we want to take on c6 first, force b takes c6, and then b4. Queen back to c7, and we go for the good move, bishop to d4. Now, if black plays too passively, white will have time for the moves f4, castles, and developing of the knight when white is basically just up a pawn for nothing. So black has to act quickly here. He goes a5, breaking down our pawn chain. We ignore it, just go castles. We're not worried about knight takes d4 because obviously we just take, we have a great pawn centre. Black goes g6, and now we get the pawns rolling with a4. If black doesn't take here, we'll be going b5 when we will have a very nice push on the queen side. So a takes b4, c takes, and bishop g7. Now our plan here is to go rook e1, knight c3. If black delays too long in taking this pawn, we'll be going f4, so black has to go take on e5. He's going to want a castle, and his ideal situation would be we're forced to take on e5, he takes with the queen, he's hitting a1, he's also got ideas of going h5, h4 and attacking on the king side, so that's how he would play. So we need to get our pieces active as quickly as possible and advance on the queen side. Rook e1, castles, and now we want to preempt rook fb8, hitting our b pawn with the move bishop c3. Because black will be playing this anyway. So black will play d4, our bishop has to go back to d2, and he takes on e5. Now I would say you could either go g3 or h3 here. I would say g3 is slightly better. And now we've got the clear plan of rook a3, just to get out of the x-ray of this bishop, and then we can shore up the c pawn with queen c2. We can go b5 when the time is right, and then if black doesn't take, we just go b6 and roll these pawns. Meanwhile, it's going to take a lot longer for black's kingside attack to be active. He's going to play h5, h4, probably rook fb8 just to slow us down a bit. And potentially his long-term chances lie with sacking on g3. But I would definitely take white in this position. Now in this final game, we'll see a rarely played but very potent bayonet attack, which is slightly different from the tile variation. Black again goes bishop f5, but we go g4 first to immediately gain time on this bishop. If the bishop comes to e4, we can play f3 and kick it back. So black goes bishop g6, we go h4. Now the best move for black here is h5, immediately challenging our weak g4 pawn. If we play g4, we will be overextended. This f5 square will become available after and black can go e6, knight e7, knight f5. We also don't want to take on h5 because bishop takes and we've got an awful kingside pawn structure. So black should have gone h5. Instead he goes h6 and it's immediately +1 for us. And why is that? Because we can go h5, again drive the bishop back to h7, and then we've got this amazing pawn sacrifice, e6. Now this locks black's bishop in jail basically, because it's going to take either two moves, these e-pawns to move and the bishop to come out, or one move for g5 for example, and the bishop to come out this way, and even then it'll be biting on granite because we're going to play c3. So we want to play knight f3, knight e5, immediately block this pawn off. We want to play bishop d3, get rid of this light square bishop, and then after that, our queen will be on d3, and black's light squares around his king will be very weak, and we can start a kingside attack. So let's see how that works. Black will try and play queen d6, knight d7, knight f6, stabilise, get the pieces out, castle queenside, and then slowly untangle and convert the extra pawn. But it's a very long and dangerous path. So we play bishop d3, bishop takes d3, queen takes, and knight f6. Now we have got the immediate queen g6 check, which is a perfectly good move. We follow up with knight f3 and knight e5, and black is effectively forced to castle by hand, moving the king over to the queen side and get the knight and queen out. Very slow. We go knight f3, knight e4, blocking the queen's path to this square, and we go knight bd2, putting pressure on the knight. Black will go queen a5, again just pinning this knight. It's quite a clever way to try and slow white down. It also gets another piece out of the way, so knight d7, castles becomes possible. So we castle. We're fine castling behind these advanced pawns because black is in no position to counterattack. Knight d7, we take on e4, winning a pawn. Black is +3 here, but black went queen d5 in the game, and white went queen g6 check, king d8, and knight e5. White would like to play moves like c4, rook d1, basically any attacking moves, and you're attacking down the centre. Look how little activity black's rooks and bishop have. They are basically entombed on this first rank and they're never going to move. So knight takes e5, d takes, queen takes, we go bishop e3, making space for our rook to come to d file. Once black's king is on c7, if we're very slow, black might stabilise with moves such as moving the queen out of the way, play e5. But of course our queen's always threatening to infiltrate. The queen is blocking this g6 square. So white has all the time in the world to conduct an attack. Queen f6, rook a1, king c7, we go queen d3, threatening to come into this d-file. So black goes rook c8 just to allow king b8 after queen d7, but then we just go bishop takes a7, and black's king is doomed. He's stuck in this trap. So this was a 2300 playing as black, by the way, and he collapsed so quickly, which is quite astonishing really, and it all came down to the fact that we advanced our king side and then capitalised on it with this strong pawn sacrifice. If you want to play this yourself, I would recommend studying the theory first. It's not for the faint of heart, but yeah, it's a fantastic kingside attack. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you see that pawn storms in the Caro Kann can take place on both the queen side or the king side, both at the same time. I hope you have the chance to apply this in your own games, of course supplement it with your own study, and I'll see you in the next video.